No, you're probably fitting more as a tuna. Luna sighed. She was bored. Her sister was clearly overreacting here. I mean, come on! What princess hasn't burned down a few buildings in their time? It was all in good fun. She just wanted them to be able to see her wonderfulest night. And besides, who really needs a roof anyways? Okay, so she may have used her magic to appear evil and monstrous. But that just adds to the act. And she wanted the moon to be up for just a bit longer. Let the ponies enjoy it for once. Just a few hours? Surely she'll see how pointless this is. And bring her back any day now. Any day. Maybe she should take a look around. She turned her head and saw a barren moon in all directions. She huffed and put her head in her hooves. She'd seen it all. Bored, bored, and bored. She bounced the tennis ball on the side of the crater again and again. She groaned in frustration and hit the ball so hard it bounced off the moon and into space. Great. Now that was gone too. She rolled over onto her back and cried out as she landed on her wings. Oh, come on! She pounded the surface and created a new crater. If she hadn't made enough of them already, surely her sister would see all the different impacts in the moon and see her frustration. There was a pop, and she turned around. There was a present with a little card attached. She opened it up. Dear sister, I hope you're thinking about what you've done. I do realize being on the moon for a year already might be a bit boring, so I sent some entertainment up. Enjoy, Celestia. She looked at the box and tore the wrapping paper off in a frenzy. Oh, how she had been so bored! And now, maybe, This might keep her occupied for a while. She let out a shriek of pleasure as the boxes of video games fell out. Her good, kind, loving sister sent up her collection. She practically started rolling in them before remembering self-control and wiping a tear from her eye. She pulled out her game consoles. Being a princess with a lot of money certainly had its benefits. She carefully used her magic to bring forth a wide TV and choked up. She promised she wouldn't do anything like this again. She missed her games too much. She set it down and plugged in the NES and pulled out her all-time favorite, Mario. She waited, but nothing happened. She got up and looked behind the TV to find a hanging wire with a plug at the end. Her eye twitched. She was building another pyramid out of her games before another pop appeared. She turned around and savaged the present without even looking at the card. If this didn't have equestrian power of some kind, then... Her eye twitched again, and she used her mouth to tear through ribbon. Inside, there was a new Xbox game. She glared accusingly at the card, which laid on one side, and lifted it with magic and reading. Dear sister, happy 2-year anniversary on the moon. Hopefully, you have seriously considered what you have done wrong, and are now reflecting on your actions. Here's another game you can play. I'm not sure what it is. I never really got into gaming anyways, but I know it's practically your life. Anyway, enjoy, Celestia. She twitched twice. Well, you see, Cult of Duty, when I was still in Equestria, I would play all day when the sun was up. I didn't really need sleep. Luna spoke wisely to the game propped up. She nodded and drank some tea her sister had sent her last year with her new friend. That's not true. But you see, it's not about relieving stress. It was rather fun to craft the sky each night. No, I just enjoyed playing games and beating up other ponies. She looked to the left of her before shaking her head. Oh no, Battlefield, don't even go there. She let out a short laugh. Her mane was starting to frazzle and her eyes were bloodshot. She twitched every so often and sat in a small circle of games her sister had sent her up every year. There were 12, a dozen lonely years. But she had friends now. Merifect understood her. And Uncharted 3, Daring Do's deception, made her laugh, and she swore that Cult of Duty was attracted to her. She went cross-eyed and giggled a bit. La 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 la. She sang as she spun around in a circle in the crater. Her hair stuck out at odd angles, and a grin was plastered across her face. Her eyes spun wildly about as she fell over for about the 6,736,000th time. Mike appeared next to her. You know, Luna, you really should be more careful. Luna turned around and sat down and looked up at her friend and gave him the puppy dog eyes. He rolled his eyes and continued. If any pony else saw you, they would think you were insane. If any pony else saw Luna, they would have seen her talking to a moon rock with a jagged smile carved into the stone. She pouted. Come on, Mike, let's play astronauts again. At this, she pulled the carved-out rock over her head and looked through the visor. Mike grinned and donned his own, and they began to play. If any pony else saw this, they would have seen a pony dancing around with a rock on her head and another in her arms. She played with her PS3 this time. It was so strange. The TV just started working randomly one day without power. And the games were so fun. They were exactly the thing she wanted to play, always. They seemed to follow her own trail of thought. She heard a pop from behind her and went over to take a look. She was grinning. A new game to play! Her grin spread wider and wider without her control. It was all so funny. She twitched and opened it slowly, reading the letter while doing so. Dear sister. Wow. 500 years. You're halfway through your sentence. Keep going. Here's a little something special to celebrate. It's a new console that was just released. Celestia. Luna pulled the lid off the box to reveal a Wii U. Luna began to giggle, but found that she couldn't stop. She cackled out loud, the sound echoing inside the crater, and bounced back, which made her laugh all the more. She ran out of breath, but she couldn't stop and fell over unconscious, laughing. Luna looked around through dead eyes. Was this the castle? Can't remember. Who was that in front of her? Just the sight caused the rage to boil inside of her. Sister, I'm so glad you're back. The millennium is over, and you're home. I hope that your games help keep the boredom away. She smiled uncertainly. There she was, darling sister. The one who had left me 1,000 years with no one and nothing to play. Luna let out a shaky laugh. Oh, of course! How could I forget my darling sister, who was so kind as to leave me on the moon with all my games with no power? Steam hissed from her ears. Celestia stepped back, worriedly. What do you mean there was no power? Luna gave a malicious grin. You do realize my games run on the magic of Equestria. Without a socket to the heart of its magic, they were all worthless! She screamed. Her voice was ragged with so many conversations with herself and her games. Celestia gulped. I guess I forgot? She chuckled weakly as Luna rose up in a mist of darkness and roared so loudly the glass shattered along the walls, and her laughter boomed out across all of Canterlot. The end. Sweetie Belle sprawled out on the kitchen floor, not caring to get herself dirty, and let out a big lethargic sigh. It was the middle of the day, 12:15 to be exact, and Rarity instructed her to stay out of her way while she worked on a dress for a very important pony in Las Pegasus. Sweetie Belle loved her sister more than anything, but even though the feeling was mutual, she didn't feel like it was returned enough, though. Rarity's obsession with her job as a fashion designer left little time to play games or otherwise entertain her little sister.
Jeez, Rarity,
Sweetie Belle groaned.
why can't you be more like Pinkie Pie? There's nothing to do in this house.
The young unicorn made many attempts to entertain herself in this otherwise dull, boring kitchen. She barrel rolled across the floor for about a minute. She moved the tables and chairs to different spots in the room, but that became rather dull shortly after. In a last-ditch effort, she began opening every cabinet, drawer, and container in the kitchen she could get her hooves on. This actually brought a little smile to her face. She had no idea what to expect from inside. She found every kind of cutlery you could imagine made out of several different kinds of materials. Metal, plastic, wood, even crystal. It felt like a treasure hunt. Sweetie Belle looked back to admire the slowly growing pile of utensils on the floor behind her.
Wow, this is so cool. What else does Rarity have in here?
Sweetie Belle scanned the room for any stones left unturned. Her eyes met to one still closed, and she walked over to it and slowly pulled the metal handle outwards. She peered inside the wooden treasure box and found another box.
Huh? What's this?
Sweetie Belle reached into the drawer and pulled out a small rectangular cardboard box. Its front was red with a blue diamond on the left half. Its sides were coarse with some strange brown checkered material. She raised the box close to her ears and shook it. Another smile formed on the filly's face as she heard the contents of the box rattle. After carefully inspecting the box, she figured how to open it. She pushed in one of the small sides with her hoof and watched it as it pushed out on the other side, revealing the treasure within. Sweetie Belle looked to see a bunch of small wooden sticks with red tips. She carefully tipped the box and let one of the sticks fall onto her hoof. she said, holding the stick to her face.
What is this? A toothpick?
Not being able to figure it out, she placed it back into the box and slid the open end shut. She flipped the box over and saw something written that was printed on the bottom side. She cocked her head and began to read it out loud.
Grip the match firmly and place red balls for us. End of the match firmly against striker on either side of the box.
Sweetie Belle took a match out and did as the instructions said and continued reading.
Quickly drag match across the striker. Caution. Flames burn upwards. Be mindful of positioning of active matches while holding. This is not a toy. Keep out of reach of children? Fire can cause but is not limited to the following. First degree burns, second degree burns, third degree burns, death, and property damage.
Sweetie Belle shrugged, not caring too much about the warning on the box. She pressed the match against the side and dragged the red tip across it. She watched in awe as the chemical sprang to life with a pith and created an orange light at the end of the stick. She watched as the flames slowly consumed the stick, gradually turning it black. Sweetie Belle rotated the match so it pointed downwards. She then felt a stinging pain of sensation on her hoof and immediately dropped the match onto the floor.
Ow!
She yelped, surprised at the unexpected pain. Sweetie Belle fought to hold back her tears and rubbed her hoof in an attempt to alleviate the pain. However, despite being hurt, Sweetie Belle's attention was drawn back towards the box and caused her eyes to sparkle. She picked up the box and pulled out another match. She lit it with ease and watched the little flame dance effortlessly. It was absolutely beautiful. Sweetie Belle found herself in a trance. She was enraptured by the magic of the fire, and her world shut out everything, leaving her and the flame and her hooves alone together.
Sweetie Belle, I smell smoke! What are you doing?
A scream pulled the captivated filly out of her trance, as well as nearly giving her a heart attack. Being startled caused Sweetie Belle to drop the still lit match onto a dish rag onto the counter. Once again, she found herself fixed on the rag as a dark ring formed around where the match had landed. It started as a light brown and then darkened quickly as the heat began to leave its mark on the fabric. Sweetie Belle heard the sound of her sister storming down the stairs. She snatched up the box with her teeth and quickly ran through the washroom and out the back door. She knew that Rarity would have blown a fuse when she saw that she had nearly set the house on fire. She figured that she'd just run off somewhere and lay low for a bit. Hopefully by the time she goes home, Rarity would have calmed down. The air was cold, and Sweetie Belle regretted not bringing her scarf, but it probably wouldn't be a good idea to go back into the lion's den. No sense in going back to face Rarity's anger. Sweetie Belle ran down the stone bridge that spanned the creek near Fluttershy's cottage. She lowered herself down into the valley of the creek and nestled herself on a spot of dry land. She leaned back against the stone arch, relieved to be in a spot where she could take a breath. She closed her eyes and recalled the graceful dance of the flame. Once the flame died out in her mind, it quickly moved to when the match began to color the dish rag brown. She opened her eyes.
I wonder what else I could set on fire.
Sweetie Belle looked down to see the matchbox still in her mouth. She spat it out onto her hooves and took a match out and lit it. She watched as the flame danced at the end of the stick until a sudden gust of wind blew it out. She looked out from her hiding space to see that the sun was going down. She shivered and regretted not taking the chance to go back into the lion's den for her scarf. She remembered the warmth of the flame and carefully lit another one. The tiny flame only managed to warm her muzzle. It was simply too small to provide any real source of comfort. She needed something bigger, something like...
A pile of leaves, that's it!
Sweetie Belle remembered the sister camping trip she went on and how to properly start a fire. Sweetie Belle scraped together a small pile of leaves in front of her. She puffed out her chest and put her hooves on her sides and nodded, affirming herself for her ability to make a leaf pile. Apple Bloom and Scootaloo would be proud. She pulled another match out of the box and lit it effortlessly in one swift motion. Sweetie Belle carefully lowered the match down onto the leaf pile and watched the flame lick the brown leaves. She shielded the flame with her empty hoof, and in a matter of seconds, the leaves caught, and a larger flame emerged as the whole pile was engulfed.
Wow!
Sweetie Belle smiled in awe.
It's so nice and pretty!
Sweetie Belle held her hooves up to the flame and sighed.
It's so nice.
Sweetie Belle relished in the warmth, and it brought her great joy for a short time. Seconds later, the flame ran out of leaves to burn and went out. The space around Sweetie Belle became dark again, and all that was left of the once beautiful fire was now a string of white smoke rising from the ashes.
I need more. What else can I burn?
Sweetie Belle got up and crawled out from under the bridge. The moon was now visible in the night sky. The leaves crunched under her hooves as she walked into town.
I've already set some of those on fire. I need something else this time. Something bigger.
Sweetie Belle couldn't keep this to herself. She wanted to share it with every pony and receive praise for her work, just like Rarity when she made dresses. In the moonlight, Sweetie Belle's eyes caught a glimpse of a very large-sized tree. Its leaves swayed gently in the wind, and like the flame on the match, Sweetie Belle's face lit up with excitement.
That's perfect!
She said, quickly inspecting the tree from top to bottom. Sweetie Belle walked up to the base, lit a match, and held the flame up to the bark. Her smile faded quickly when she realized that the tiny flame wouldn't be able to light such a big tree. This time, she gathered a larger leaf pile around the base of the tree and held the lit match up to it. The leaves quickly caught and created a roaring flame that licked the bark of the tree. Soon enough, the trunk went up in flames. Sweetie Belle squealed in delight, despite hearing voices from inside the tree.
Twilight, do you smell something? Fire! Spike, help me grab as many books as you can carry and get out!
Sweetie Belle noticed little squares of light appearing on the sides of the tree and all over town as ponies were turning on their bedroom lights and poking their heads out of their windows, wondering what the commotion was.
Every pony is waiting to see my work. They all want to see the beauty that I've created and mastered.
Sweetie Belle took a deep inhale of the smell of burning nature, relishing every second of the heavenly odor. She was about to take another deep breath, but stopped when she heard the all-too-familiar sound of thundering hooves and her sister's loud scream.
Sweetie Belle, what are you doing?
Rarity screamed in confusion. Sweetie Belle turned to her sister and smiled.
Isn't it amazing? Look at it go!
Do you have any idea what you just done?
Rarity shouted, trying to make herself audible over the roaring fire and the murmur of ponies that began to congregate around them.
I created something beautiful, just like you do.
The filly smiled innocently.
I created something beautiful, but I just couldn't keep it to myself. I had to show every pony in Ponyville what I've done. So, what I did was, I set that tree on fire and every pony came to see it.
Rarity was dumbfounded. She could tell that her sister was completely serious and that she was really proud of her work. However, she had no idea how to go about dealing with it. Her little sister had committed arson and set her friend's house on fire, but finding a way to explain to her that what she had did was outright wrong was difficult because of her innocence. Rarity looked down at her sister. The roaring fire cast a silhouette on the filly and noticed something that wasn't there before. She blinked a few times, trying to make sure that she wasn't seeing things. What she saw didn't change. Sweetie Belle, she said.
What is it?
What is that on your flank? Sweetie Belle looked back to see a fireball emblem emblazoned onto her flank.
Oh my gosh!
The air was warm, the sun was shining, and every pony in Ponyville was having a glorious day. The town square was bustling and crowded, and busy ponies filled the streets. All the pony folk seemed to have somewhere specific to be, all except Rainbow Dash. Her place was in the sky. She tore freely through the air, speeding one way and then the next, buzzing the treetops and racing the winds. The blue Pegasus swooped over a schoolyard, much to the delight of the children, then climbed several hundred feet into the air and dove, streaking downward as fast as she could. Seconds before hitting the ground, her wings flew open, and she pulled back up into the clear blue. Rainbow felt alive. Suddenly, Dash remembered she had somewhere to be. She was supposed to meet Pinkie Pie in 5 minutes. Dash had gotten so caught up in her exercises that she had nearly forgot that Pinkie had asked her to meet her at Sugar Cube Corner at 3. Pinkie hadn't said why or what they'd be doing, but Dash knew that with Pinkie, it could be anything. Dash wasn't sure if she really wanted to go, though. Dash was so engaged with her stunts that she thought about blowing Pinkie off to continue flying. But Dash's conscience got the best of her. She knew that it would hurt Pinkie's feelings. After all, Pinkie had said it was going to be something special just for the two of them. Dash considered it and thought, why not? Heck, it might be more pranking. Pinkie might have found a bunch more fun stuff to pull on folks, and they had so much fun the last time. Dash kicked it into overdrive to make up for the lost time, and sped to her appointment. When Dash walked into the store, she was immediately greeted by her host, who was bouncing in excitement.
Yay! You're here! I've been waiting all day!
Said the jumping pony.
Sorry if I'm a little late, Pinkie. I was doing my afternoon exercises and lost track of time.
Dash apologized. Pinkie giggled and responded in a gleeful, assuring tone.
Oh, that's okay. You're here now. What's a few more minutes? I've been so excited thinking about all the fun stuff we're going to do. I haven't stopped bouncing since I woke up. I almost forgot to breathe. I've been so happy.
Dash gave a slightly uncomfortable laugh. She had always appreciated Pinkie's friendly, outgoing way of life, but Pinkie's overabundant enthusiasm almost creeped her out. Dash maintained a polite expression, however. If Pinkie was this worked up, whatever she had planned must be good.
So, you ready to get started, Rainbow Dash? I've got everything all ready.
The pink pony said. Dash psyched herself up.
You betcha, Pinkie. So what do you got planned? Are you gonna prank somebody? I got a couple of good ones I've been thinking about. Or maybe you've got some stunts you think I should try? Or perhaps
Baking cupcakes!
Pinkie happily announced.
baking?
Dash was disappointed.
Pinkie, you know I'm not good at baking. Remember last time?
Oh, that's not a problem at all. I only need your help making them. I'll be doing most of the work.
Pinkie explained. Dash thought about it for a second.
Well, alright, I guess that's okay. What exactly do you want me to do?
That's the spirit. Here you go.
Pinkie handed Dash a cupcake. Dash was puzzled.
I thought I was helping you bake.
Oh, you will be. I made this one just for you before you got here.
So, is this like taste testing or something?
Sorta.
Pinkie said. Dash shrugged and popped the pastry into her mouth. She chewed a bit and swallowed. Not bad.
Okay, now what?
Dash asked.
Now,
Pinkie informed her.
you take a nap.
Puzzled, Dash opened her mouth, but felt instantly lightheaded. A wave of dizziness washed over her. The world spun, and seconds later, she collapsed onto the floor. When Dash regained consciousness, she found herself in a dark room. She tried to shake her head, but found a taut leather strap held it firmly in place. She struggled more, but the braces around her chest and limbs glued her to the rack formed from a series of sturdy planks, which spread her legs wide apart. Dash's wings were the only part of her not tied down, and they fluttered frantically while she struggled to escape. As she writhed, Pinkie jumped suddenly into her line of sight.
Goody, you're awake. Now we can get started.
Pinkie stated gleefully. She bounded into the darkness and quickly reappeared, pushing a small cart covered with a cloth.
Pinkie, what's going on? I can't move!
Dash said urgently.
Well, duh. That's because you're tied down.
Chided Pinkie.
That's why you can't move. I didn't think you need to be told that.
But why? What's happening? I thought you said I was going to make cupcakes.
You are helping! You see, I ran out of the special ingredient and I need you to get more.
Special ingredient?
Dash was now breathing heavily and starting to panic.
What special ingredient?
Pinky giggled and responded.
You silly!
Dash's eyes widened, and her face contorted in fear. She started to laugh and said, in a voice bordering on hysteria,
Ooh, you really got me there, Pinkie Pie. I mean, tricking me into thinking I'm gonna get made into a cupcake? I gotta tell you, this is the best prank yet. You win, you're the best.
Pinky only giggled even more.
Aw, thanks, Dash. But I haven't done any pranks today, so I can't accept your praise.
Dash was struggling again.
Pinky, come on. This isn't funny.
Then why are you laughing?
Before Dash could answer, Pinky grabbed the cloth and whipped it off of the cart. On the cart was a tray containing various sharp medical tools and knives, carefully organized and wickedly sharp, as well as a large medical bag. Dash was in full panic mode. She was starting to hyperventilate. Her mind raced as she tried to reason with the pink pony.
You can't do this, Pinky. I'm your friend.
I know you are, and that's why I'm so happy that I've got you here. You get to share your last moments together, just you and me.
Pinky skipped again.
But the other ponies will wonder where I am. When the clouds pile up, they'll come looking for me, and then you'll get found out.
Dash cried out in desperation.
I'll Dash.
Pinky said,
Don't worry, there are plenty of Pegasus ponies to take care of a few clouds. And besides, no pony will find out. I mean, how long do you think I've been doing this?
and with that ominous statement, the lights suddenly came to life and revealed the rest of the room.
Oh no!
Dash reeled in horror at the images presented to her. The room was decorated with the typical but twisted Pinkie Pie flair. Colorful streamers of dried entrails fluttered around the ceiling. Brightly painted skulls of all sizes were attached to the walls, and organs done up in pastels filled with helium were tied to the back of chairs. The tables and chairs were made of bones and the preserved flesh of past ponies. Dash cringed upon seeing the centerpiece of the table nearest to her. The heads of 4 foals, their eyes closed as if they were sleeping, were wearing party hats made of their own skin. With a thrill of terror, Dash recognized one of them as Apple Bloom's classmate, Twist. Dash's eyes darted back and forth, and then fell upon the patchwork banner hanging from the rafters. Made from several tanned pony hides, the words, "Life is a Party," were scrawled on it in blood red. Dash's attention was brought back by a party horn, unfurling and tickling her nose. She gaped at Pinkie Pie, who was standing right in front of her. The party pony was wearing a dress quilted from dried skin, emblazoned with cutie marks. On her back fluttered 6 Pegasus wings, all different colors. As the Earth pony skipped in excitement, her necklace of severed unicorn horns clacked together loudly.
Like it?
Pinkie asked.
I made it myself.
Desperately, Dash pleaded with the smiling pony before her.
Pinky, please. I'm sorry if I did anything to you. I didn't mean it. Please let me go. I promise I won't tell anybody.
Oh, Dash, you didn't do anything. It's just that your number came up and, well, I don't make the rules. You can't turn back now.
Dash was tearing up. How could this be happening?
Aw, don't be sad, Dash.
Said Pinkie.
Look, this'll cheer you up. I brought you a friend.
Seemingly out of nowhere, Pinkie produced a brightly painted blue and yellow skull. It was about pony-sized, but it had a very defining feature, a beak. Dash gaped in shock.
Is that?
Hey, Dash, just hang together. These ponies are Nemo. Dweeb, dweeb, dweeb.
Pinkie mimicked.
I caught her right before she left town. Remember when I left the party for about 20 minutes? That wasn't enough time to play with her, of course. I had to wait until after the party to do that. But boy, am I glad I did. It was worth it for the flavor alone. Griffins taste like 2 animals at once. It's amazing. I know she didn't have a number like everyone else in Ponyville, but when was I going to get another chance to try Griffin? I probably should have asked where she came from so I could have gotten more. But I forgot. I'll tell you what, though. She was quite the fighter. She lasted a long time, which was a lot of fun for me. I got the chance to play with somebody other than a pony and try new things. It's too bad she had such a meanie mouth. She said so much bad stuff, I just had to take your tongue out. You know, bad language makes for bad feelings, Rainbow Dash.
Dash didn't have anything to say. She just sobbed and writhed in her tight bonds.
Well, that's enough reminiscing.
Said Pinky, with an air of finality.
It's time to begin.
Putting down Gilda's skull, the pink pony gripped a scalpel in the cleft of her hoof and walked over to Dash's right flank. Without any flair, Pinky placed the blade an inch above Dash's cutie mark and began a circular cut around it. Dash cried out in pain and tried desperately to pull away, but the braces held her still. Finishing the incision, Pinky grabbed the curved skinning knife from the tray. Screwing up her face in concentration, she worked it under Dash's skin and sliced the hide away from the muscle. Dash grounded her teeth as she tearfully watched her flesh peel off. Pinky then moved to the other side and repeated the process on Dash's left flank. Once she had finished, Pinky held up both cutie marks in front of her and started waving them like pom-poms. Dash just whimpered. Her thighs burnt like nothing she had felt before. Placing the ragged patches of skin down, Pinky selected a large butcher knife and walked behind the blue Pegasus.
Hope you don't mind. I think I'm gonna wing it now.
Pinky laughed. She grabbed Dash's left wing in her mouth and played with it for a few seconds, yanking it back so the sharp pain reignited the fire in Dash's flanks. Then, stretching out the wing, Pinky brought the blade down hard at the base. Instantly, Dash screamed and thrashed her appendage. The movement threw off Pinky's aim. She tried to hit the mark again but missed and carved a huge slice into Dash's back.
Dash, you gotta stay still and I'll keep missing.
Scolded Pinky as her friend howled. Pinky took another whack and hit her target. She swung again and again. Blood sprayed into the air, and Pinky realized she wasn't getting anywhere. The blade just wasn't going through the bone.
I guess I forgot to sharpen it. I'll try something else.
Stated Pinky matter-of-factly as she tossed the knife over her shoulder, embedding the blade in the table. Through a haze of pain and tears, Dash heard the sound of a metal box opening and closing.
Got it. See, Dash? Why do they call it a hacksaw? It doesn't hack. Hacking was what I was doing with the knife. This is just a saw. I don't get it.
Pinky placed the tool over the mangled flesh of the last attempt. Standing on her hind legs, she worked the saw back and forth with her front hooves. It sliced effortlessly through the bone and skin. The feeling of jagged teeth grinding into her made Dash want to vomit. She watched numbly as her wing flew over her head and landed with a fluff on the table. Pinky moved to the next wing and started sawing. Dash didn't struggle this time. She'd given up trying to fight and focused on choking back screams of agony. Abruptly, the sawing paused. Pinky was only halfway done, the wing hanging off by a sliver.
Hey, Dash!
Pinky piped up.
Think fast!
Suddenly, Pinky yanked the wing as hard as she could. The bone snapped, but the blue Pegasus skin held, then tore away. The pull ripped away a long strip of flesh all the way down Dash's back to her rump. Her body sieged at the unexpected trauma. As her pelvis tensed up, Dash felt a warm release between her legs, and her loud, unending melody of pain filled the room. Unable to catch her breath, she blacked out. Dash woke up with a gasp. The stench of her urine filled her mucus-caked nostrils. As her vision swam into focus,